favourite artefact in the Space Centre is the moon rock.
It would have to be the Soyuz, kind of a toss-up between the rockets, which everybody loves, and the moon rock.
A piece of moon rock, and if you visit the Space Centre, you should definitely go and see it.
Favourite artefact is going to be Saturn in a bathtub with a rubber duck.
A medal that we received as a gift of thanks from the British ESA astronaut Tim Peake.
So favourite artefact in the Space Centre is the moon rock. It's so novel for a museum in England and the UK. Not very easily accessible, and to be looking at something that has been thousands and thousands of miles away is pretty incredible.
It would have to be the Soyuz. I remember when it was first brought to the Space Centre, we're quite lucky to have it, and also that it's still used today in a slightly modified form. But its technology is timeless, really. There are loads of really cool artefacts in the Space Centre. It's probably a kind of a toss-up between the rockets, which everybody loves, and the moon rock. I always thought that the moon rock was a very beautiful artefact, unique. But I think one of the things that I always used to tell visitors when they came to the Space Centre was don't forget to look up, because there are a lot of really cool things hanging from the ceiling, lots of really cool satellites, lots of models. A brilliant model of the International Space Station. There's the Soyuz capsule. So lots of really cool things hanging from the ceiling. So always remember to look up when you visit.
There's so many gems as you walk around the galleries. If you go up the rocket tower, I'd start maybe with one of the smallest ones, which is a piece of moon rock. And if you visit the Space Centre, you should definitely go and see it. It's just incredible to look at and understand that this rock was recovered from an extraterrestrial body by human hands and then brought all the way back to Earth during the Apollo missions. Another artefact that I did already mention was Blue Streak, and just as a representation of Britain's ambition to go into space, I think it's inspirational, and the rocket tower itself is part of that. You can see it from miles around, and it's iconic. It's become an iconic part of Leicester.
Favourite artefact is going to be Saturn in a bathtub with a rubber duck, to show that if Saturn was small enough or there was a bathtub big enough, Saturn would actually float because it's not very dense. So that's a fun one.
So there is an artefact that I'm quite proud of. It's hidden away a little bit in the National Space Centre. So when you're on the mezzanine deck, on this mezzanine deck, going towards the stairs, if you look to your left, there's the National Space Academy Teaching Lab. So this is where National Space Academy masterclasses and teacher training sessions all take place. And in the wall there's a little box, and you can see a medal that we received as a gift of thanks from the British ESA astronaut Tim Peake and ESA, the European Space Agency, as a thank you for the work that we did on education and engagement around his mission to the International Space Station back in 2015. So that's the Principia mission, and it is the Principia mission patch, but as a medal rather than a patch. It's kind of hidden away, but if you do go to the National Space Centre, do look for it, because that for me was a really nice recognition of a lot of work that went into a particular project that was all about Tim doing some science demos on the International Space Station and us tying that to GCSE and A-level science in the UK.